Hello, it's me, Brady, your friend. I'm back. I was gone last week, I'm sorry, but I'm back here in shining sunlight because Utah is warm again. So, you're probably not here to talk about weather. I feel like that's a regular occurrence here, but you're probably here for lighting or just to hang out, and either of which are fantastic. So, stick around, hang your coat up, stay a while. Diving in. This scene that I want to talk about here is a moving subject. Moving subjects get hard. It's like, do we move light? Do we not move light? What do we do? It's just, you got a moving frame and moving frame line, so it makes things difficult. And I want to break down what we did in this scene. Now, it was a very quick walk and talk that we just had walking through this hallway along the window. And that was pretty much it. And we really had an hour to get this shot. We had shot the other shots previously in the day, and we had an hour till we got the shot and had to get out of there. So we had to think snappy and be on the fly, and that's kind of like how this whole project went. It was a blast, but we had to think fast and get things done. There was a lot to do. So a lot of the times when that happens, I'm thinking like lightweight, what can we do that's quick? What needs little rigging equipment? What just can be handheld? And immediately what came to mind is the Amarant F22, which seems to be a pattern for me because I always use that because it's light and it's soft and it's portable and it does a lot of things. So that's what I used for this, and I was like, how can I do this? And I was breaking it down in my head, and I was like, what would make sense for lighting here? And I knew that we needed to expose for the back window that was out back way down the hall, so we needed to darken the camera, and by doing that, her face would have gotten very dark. So I was like, all right, so my goal here is to push in more light from the side that she's walking on. Just act as if there is more daylight coming in than there really is. So that was the motivation behind this. So I was like, how can I do this while walking and keeping a consistent soft light source? Because if we were to put just like a big soft diffusion on the wall, well, as we go back, we would see the light source. So I was like, all right, that's not an option. So my next option was to just have a tracking soft source come with her, and that would require a moving person like me carrying the light. And I was thinking the Amarant F22 is so lightweight, it's just like a fabric mat essentially. So I rigged that up, put some diffusion on it, and essentially for the key light, I just held this out. So I had one hand kind of tracking backwards, and I just tracked backwards, having this overhead, making sure I was getting enough side wrap on the Talon's face. So that was essentially all that we did for the key light, and we had this set to, I want to say it was like just a daylight 5600 Kelvin. Actually, no, changed my mind, erased all of that. I had it set to a 6200 Kelvin, and I'll tell you why in a second, but keep that in mind. Key light was set to 6200. So that was our key light walking backwards. I had it really set to about 30%, just enough to give a little bit of wrap coming in, pushing from the windows, just to accent that ambient daylight. Now there were two more lights that I added here because I just wasn't sold. I felt like it was light heavy on the left side and it was kind of falling off into darkness. So the stairs that were on frame right as we were walking by, this kind of wood textured wall was actually stairways. So it had a bunch of slotted holes through it, and I was like, oh, what if we motivate some sunlight punching through this texture, because textured hard light is always fun. So that's what we did. And what I did for this is I took a 1200D and I set this up down at the back end of the hall, just coming through this first cast of the wood. And then I did the same thing for the 600C, both apertures. The aperture 600C I had on the more near side as well. Both of them I just had with a typical reflector cone, and just rigged them up as like kind of a sunlight angle would, kind of high coming pointing down into this hallway through the slotted walls. Now, what purpose did this serve? It was acting as there was sunlight, and as she was walking by, you're just getting this moving texture of hard light, but it wasn't an overwhelming amount. I think I had them at like, 20 or 30% on the 1200, and then maybe 50 or 60% on the 600. And it was just like a subtle like moving texture on her, as if the sun was over in the building casting in on her, and it just added a little bit more dynamic light as she was walking by. Now let's loop back to the color temperatures. We had these lights set to 5600 Kelvin. One, because the 1200D is a daylight fixture, so of course it's 5600, and I just matched that up with the 600C. Now my reason for this is that this light at 5600 was the sunlight. It would render a little bit warmer than this ambient daylight coming in that was the key light that was 6200 Kelvin. So I had a little bit cooler tones coming in there just to make this sunlight feel more like setting sun kind of vibes. And then I think we had the camera set to 5600 Kelvin. That was just red, so it was raw. And at the time of recording this, we don't yet have it colored, so I don't know what we brought the white balance to by the time you're seeing it. But essentially, this is the setup that we had. Breaking it down, it was exposing the camera for the windows out back, making sure you're not blowing out the windows, and then you're bringing in your key light, making sure you're getting a nice acceptable wrap of light coming in from the window. You don't want too much to make it feel like the window light is brighter than the actual sky that you see in the frame. So just a subtle kiss and wrap of light, and then bringing in those two hard sources that you see on frame right, the Aputure 1200D and the Aputure 600C, both acting as sunlight just to keep the continuity of kind of the same direction, two pictures from the same direction. So just both of those as sunlight coming through the textured wall, just to add a fun creative pop as the talent is walking by. Moving subjects don't have to be all that difficult. A lot of the times I can find myself doing some on the fly softbox stuff like this. And it was very minimal essentially as far as our lights. We just had two hard sources and then a soft walking source. And it was pretty quick because again, we had to get out of there. So don't overcomplicate things. Really, even if you don't have the three sources, you don't need the two hard lights coming from frame right. I just use that as a creative pop. If you really only have one light source, like the F22 or similar, you can just use that as your key light and it would still look very nice. So that's gonna do it for this video. I want to go enjoy the sunlight and maybe a beer. I don't know, maybe I'll play pickleball or something. Something that Utah. What are we? Are Utahnians? What are we? We're Utahns. Something that Utahns do in the warm weather. Anywho, I gotta go, and I will see you guys next week in the next video. So I hope you have a good week. I hope you're enjoying everything that you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope you're enjoying it, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.